The feeling that kept coming back to me was that I really wanted to be a horse trainer. I was determined, ambitious, and I had a great passion for the horses. One of my earliest memories was coming home on the afternoon of the Melbourne Cup when Saintly was lucky enough to get up and win. Ownership was in the family, the breeding was in the family, and the horse was trained in the family, and he was able to win the biggest race that we have. You know, the other fond memories I have of being at track work in the early morning, just going along with my father or my grandfather, or being at the track on a Saturday. They're all pretty fond memories of my early experience and exposure to the track. I was at boarding school for 6 years. I was dropped off when I was 13 and picked up when I was 18. And yet in the times that I wasn't at school, I wanted to be back there at the stables working and earning a bit of pocket money and getting to know some of the characters from the track, working in the back laneway at Randwick and working in the cold mornings and during the winter and the hot afternoons during the summer. I had a great passion for the horses. I felt really at ease working with horses when I was young. The involvement of a racing stable, that team environment, and the dedication and the passion that went into that. It was a vocation that I couldn't shake, and I kept feeling like I was drawn to that, and that's what stuck. Being through all that, I'm also in a really privileged position to have fast-tracked my way to, getting more and more responsibility, and that came with its own pressure. That wasn't easy to do either. At the age of 21, to be in charge of staff and to be a foreman for Bart, he was a really hard taskmaster. I'd learned a lot already, but I learned a hell of a lot more in a short space of time under that sort of pressure when there was a full stable, there were clients, there were staff, the horses going to the races. And it's a time I look back on fondly, but there were plenty of moments there when there was, that extra bit of pressure that was on you that could either make you or break you. He was a tough boss. He would often sit me down and look at me sternly and tell me, "Listen, son, there's no sentiment in business." And that was obvious from day one that he was not going to be forgiving and not going to give an inch, not going to be easier on me because I was flesh and blood. It actually really opened my eyes up to exactly the way he went about things, and the way he solved problems, the way he approached bringing horses to their absolute peak in grand finals. And it was a lot easier to observe him to do those sorts of things with horses like Viewed and Roman Emperor, horses like Rock Classic, Faint Perfume, and So You Think. There was a lot happening there in a short space of time for me to be able to learn quickly. Results were able to come from the hard work that was poured into all of those beautiful horses that we were lucky enough to walk through the stable gate. It's a comment that I made at his wake, and I truly believe it, that many years from now, when the first shovel load of dirt's thrown on my own coffin, I will still be talking about my grandfather, and there'll still be a place for him amongst us all, and he'll still be looking over us. And the lessons that he's taught me to be second nature are going to help me to go a long way.
Prized Icon clinging to the lead from Shinbora, and Prized Icon, well, the first horse this century to take out the Fernhill Champagne Double.
Well, out of the shadow of his famous grandfather, J.B. Cummings, James Cummings gets his first Group 1 win. Big moment. It's going to take a while to sink in.
The Monday afternoon, we actually hadn't nominated Prized Icon for the Champagne Stakes. He'd won the Fernhill Handicap the week before, and we'd really targeted the Fernhill Handicap. We knew all along throughout the preparation that's a race he could really win, continuing to try to solidify the reputation of the stable, particularly with the passing of my grandfather. So those little victories, those small fish, they made quite sweet eating. Once we'd had a look through the list of the nominations, I remember we called up the float that was taking the horse back to Goree. It was on Bell's Liner Road, and we said, "Turn that float around. I think we need to get the horse back in the stable, and we need to we need to start him in this Champagne Stakes. So the horse came back, he had a great week, and he raced boldly again, and he put himself right there, and he was able to hold off some outstanding opposition to get my first Group 1.
Elise gets the run as well. The two favourites, Elise went straight past Champagne Cuddles, then Cellar Girl and One More Honey. Hasn't she got a motor, Elise? That was electrifying.
Flight Stakes, it was a really convincing first Group 1 for me in my association with Godolphin in the Godolphin Silks. It's a fast pace that we operate at, and there's always another mission, there's another goal to aim towards, and there are other targets. So we've got to move fast. We communicate very well. We share our successes, and as a result, I think we operate really quite successfully.